Is how we get down. Welcome into the Coach and Bro Show. We drop episodes and we do it live every single Monday and Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. If you do not catch us live, you can always catch us on demand at the Behind the Turnbuckle YouTube page. This show, part of the BTT universe that is growing literally by the day. Now, if you're new to our show, this is where we talk about the biggest topics in pro wrestling. We do not break down Raw and SmackDown segment by segment. You can go someplace else for that. But here, because combined we have well over 20 years inside of the WWE at BTT, over 50 years combined in the WWE. Now, I am the coach, but I can't do this show by myself. It is a thrill and an honor every single time I get to share the screen with this man right here, the greatest writer in the history of pro wrestling, ladies and gentlemen, from russosbrand.com, Mr. Vince Russo. Good afternoon, sir.
What is going on, Coach? This is the show I look the most forward to every Monday and Thursday, to sit here with you, chop it up. But let's lay down the ground rules.
Okay.
I see people coming in the room, so let's lay down the ground rules. Listen, man, you guys want to be a part of this conversation. You want to ask us questions. You want to leave comments. We will bring you right up on the screen. But you got to do it through a donation or a super sticker. Why? Because Coach and I are working right now. This is work. Coach, is this not work?
It is work. Now, it's fun work.
It's
but
fun
it is work,
but it's
nevertheless.
Work. Right?
Nevertheless.
Exactly.
100%. And we know everybody likes to have a voice, especially wrestling fans.
Yes.
And we want you to have that opportunity, but not ruining the flow. Now, two things, Vince, before we get into our first topic. And did you notice the work that producer man is putting in on the show? Did you notice that new open
Yes,
today?
that looked absolutely phenomenal. I was in my slap nut shirt. Thank you very, very much, producer man. Very, very, very nice.
We're always trying to sell your merch. The other part is the way that I feel like you need to run a brand or build a brand is you have to cross promote. You have to support each other. You have to lift us up, right? So tomorrow, so everything is here and Behind the Turnbuckle, but you also have your brand. We promote to the moon. Always will. Always will. But Vince, we've got an announcement tomorrow that is going to shake up the BTT universe.
Wow.
An announcement tomorrow that is going to add to the universe, and an announcement tomorrow that will be available in potentially over 100 million homes. That's tomorrow.
Now, where can they get this announcement tomorrow, Coach?
So we're going to put it out on our social media. It'll be at our Behind the Turnbuckle. It'll be at mine. And I would hope that you would retweet it for us.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, yes.
So we're working on a little something special, and it will be in video form, and then we'll be promoting it throughout the week. But I'm telling you right now, and you're going to be a part of it. You're going to be a part of our new announcement, and which I'm thrilled about. So
somebody says, is this going to be a Netflix collaboration? I don't know about that, because I don't know, Coach. Do you and I have the potential to drop 37% from week 1 to week 2, Coach? I don't know. I don't know if we can do that, Coach. I don't know if we can do that, Coach.
Now we'll
can we do that, Coach?
We'll get into the numbers.
All right.
We'll get into the numbers. But,
all right.
And by the way, if you're new, it's kind of like good cop, bad cop. And Vince is always the bad cop, which is kind of how we work. It's kind of how we work. All right, let's jump in right now, because we got a lot of topics to talk about, and that's exactly where we are headed, because there's a lot of news made in the business world of wrestling, which they are now a big part of Netflix. So let's start with the Netflix news. So you and I were well ahead of this game. We talked about this many, many times, and they waited for the launch of Raw on Netflix. They were at 5.9 million streams the first week. But here's where they're going to have to figure things out, because Netflix comes out and they're going to raise the pricing on every level, up $2 for regular people. But also, Vince, here's what got hidden in the weeds. They're also raising very small the ad-supported number at $7.99. Now, why would they do that and not push to the premium at $24.99? Because they want to start selling ads in the millions and billions of dollars. So what do you make initially? Because in the last quarter, They added 19. I wrote this down. 19 million new subs in the last quarter of 2024. So business is booming, despite the fact that Raw dropped 37%, as you said, from week 1 to week 2.
Coach, you know what I have to say about that, Coach?
What's that?
No yeet, no yeet, no yeet, no yeet.
Coach, I want to say this. Listen, I want to say this to the people listening. And guys, remember, you could be a part of this conversation. Super sticker donation. Support us, support the brand, support Producer Man, everybody that's on these platforms. Guys, listen, man. This is how I look at it. I work hard for my money. Coach works hard for his money. You work hard for your money. I want a value for my money. Mm-hmm. If you are asking me to go in my pocket and pay you, I want a value for that money. So my advice to anybody listening to this show, if you think, you get a value for, upping your membership or going to a higher platform, whatever the case may be, go for it. No question about it. I've said, Coach, I've said this all along. I get paid good money to watch Raw and SmackDown.
Yes, you do.
If I did not get paid, these shows do not warrant my time. In other words, I would not be watching them. That's the truth. That's not a shot at the WWE or anything. I mean, I don't watch AEW. I used to watch AEW. When I deemed it a waste of my time, I stopped watching it. So guys, again, if it's valuable to you and you feel you're getting the bang for your buck, go for it. But, again, Coach, we talked about this. You're charging now for a show that people got free for 25 years.
Yes.
I mean, no matter how much now, if that's a new and improved show, that's one thing. If it's the same old, well, why am I paying for this now?
So you bring up a lot of good points there, and let me kind of break it down, because when Netflix kind of became really big and they got to the 100 million, 200 million subs, it was very simple. And I don't fault them for raising their prices. That's what businesses do, right? But now you've got a $17.99, you've got a $24.99, you've got a $7.99, and it's also starting to bleed into the Monday Night Raw product. So you do a Monday night show, we do a Monday night show, and the other night we were on the thread with Big Tommy and Gabby, and I was talking about something I had just watched, and they're like, "What? I didn't see that." And so now you've got some people that are getting, and this is where I think they need to sit down and figure this out, because you're doing interviews in the arena so that the arena audience, when they're in break and ads, have something to hear. But not everybody at home is getting the Ludwig Kaiser interview or whatever the case might be. So now when you're out there and you want people to promote your stuff, I don't know what's being seen and what's not being seen. I feel bad for Michael Cole, because he's coming back from a break, then he's tossing to a break, and then he's like doing all this kind of stuff. And it shocks me a little bit that if they knew all this stuff was coming with the ads, which they had never done before, this is all new for Netflix. You never had to worry about advertising, that they wouldn't have a more clear-cut plan on what they wanted to do specifically with Raw, because the football games are the football games. You got the natural commercials in them. But this is something new that adds a layer to all of it that I would see, right?
Yeah, and Coach, you know what, too? It was, unless I missed it, it was not explained to us. These tiers should have been explained to us. For $7.99, you're getting this. For $12.99, you're getting this. And that should have came from the WWE's end. They should have explained it to, because like you said, Coach, it is very confusing, because just this past week, I sat here, I watched Raw on Netflix. Then all of a sudden, I saw footage of a Karrion Kross interview. And I'm like, wait a minute. Where was that? I know I watched the show. So it is very confusing. That should have been explained up front, Coach.
So we'll see what they decide to do. And I'm a big Netflix fan. We would love the Coach and Bro Show to be on Netflix. Yeah, obviously. We have other brands that are Amazon Prime right now because we're growing every single day. But they've got to figure this out. But I'm going to give them some grace, Vince, because this is new territory for them, and it's the natural evolution of their business. So I'm going to give them some grace. But you know who I'm not going to give grace to?
Go ahead.
Is the rising dollar for WrestleMania tickets. And normally when you have your second biggest show, which is coming up, the Royal Rumble, which I was in 2 of, and I'm very proud to say that, you normally don't start pushing for WrestleMania until after the Royal Rumble is over. But now they've started a heavy push for tickets because I think they know, because TKO has been very, very upfront about this, that they're going to start charging way more for everything because they've spent billions and billions and billions on all of their new products. And by the way, one of them is the PBR Pro Bull Riders Tour. Did you notice the other night they threw 4 or 5 dudes on there that literally nobody knew?
Yeah.
Michael Cole didn't even know who they were, and he was reading the sheet.
Yeah.
So the cross promotion is evident. It's just, to me, that it added more confusion. Why are we showing PBR when they're not in Vegas and they were in Texas somewhere? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So here's the deal. So the prices, and this is as of yesterday, the cheapest ticket that can be found for WrestleMania, nosebleed, last row, $700 plus. If you want to sit in the front row and you want to buy a ticket for either night, $15,000. Now, I don't know if I'm sitting in a room with these TKO executives, how they can justify to a family. If there's a father sitting there saying, how am I supposed to take my families? It's a dream to go to WrestleMania. It was one of my favorite things. I'd love to meet the families when I was a part of 16 WrestleManias. And now these families, you're going to see very few kids, and you're going to see a lot of corporate giveaway tickets because normal people just simply cannot afford to go.
You know, Coach, listen, I have to be honest, and I am not a very, very good businessman. I've owned 4 businesses, and they all went out of business, so I'm not the person to talk on this. But however, I guess at the end of the day, they're going to ask $700 for a nosebleed ticket because they feel they can get it. And they probably will get it. Me, Coach, I could never, me personally, I could never charge that kind of money. Even if I knew I could get it, I still could not find it in myself to warrant that amount of money. But like I said, man, I am not a good businessman. But immediately, like you said, man, when you talk about a $700 nosebleed, I'm thinking about that family. Like, how in God's name can anybody afford that?
Somebody tweeted at me. They said, Coach, you're complaining about WrestleMania tickets, but the Super Bowl and the NFL does the exact same thing. That is completely untrue. Because a few years ago, I took my son JJ when the Chiefs went to the first Super Bowl, and I'm a diehard Chiefs fan. And the tickets face value that they give to the team were $1,500, which for a Super Bowl, get it. They give tickets to businesses like Pepsi who buy ad time. Part of that ad buy is 2, 4, 8, 10 tickets, whatever they negotiate. And then usually they'll give them away to employees as a giveaway or whatever the case might be. But it's also why the Super Bowl and the fans are usually dead, because it's a corporate base. I always think about, because Vince built this business, what would he be saying right now? This business is built on families. This business is built on taking your kids. The NFL and the Super Bowl is not built on taking your families to it. It's 2 completely different things. And when you've got an 8-year-old kid that wants to see John Cena for the very last time at WrestleMania, and you're going to tell him, well, if you want to see your favorite guy and wear all of this and wear the hat and wear the shirt that you're going to pay another $300 or $400 for, it's going to cost you as a family minimum $3,000. And you're not even going to be able to see John Cena from there. That's where I have an issue with it. I have no issues with making money, but my God, Vince, can't you put it on the advertisers instead of putting it on the fan base all the time?
Yeah, and it's always, man, I ask myself this all the time, and I don't even know if the WWE can answer this. Who's your audience? Like who are you trying to sell $700 tickets to? Just tell us who your audience is, because I get very, very, very confused by that, Coach. Very confused.
No doubt about it. We'll keep our eyes on this. My gut tells me, and most of the time we're pretty correct, that these prices will nosedive. I would encourage you, if you want to go, it's a little bit of a gamble, but go to Vegas. And I would buy tickets at the very last minute, because you're going to be able. There's going to be a lot of these sites that get these tickets, and then they'd rather get a couple dollars than wait and be sitting on them because nobody buys them. So I would wait and buy them last minute. You'll probably get a really good price on a ticket, much lower there. Yeah. Now, speaking of Netflix, and speaking of, by the way, you're watching the Coach and Bro Show. Vince, how can they be a part of the show?
Guys, if you want to add a comment, if you want to ask us anything, bro, feel free to do so. Just do that through a super sticker or a donation, and that really helps support all our shows, all our platforms. Like I said, man, this is what we do for a living, so it is greatly, greatly appreciated.
All right, so we talked last show about Corey Graves and I did a little bit of digging because I still have some connections around the business, as you know. And everybody that thought this thing was a work, oh no, he was not in good standing with the powers that be. They did not like the fact that Corey Graves went public on Twitter and talked about not being famous enough, a shot at Pat McAfee, and just not being involved in the bigger shows now, Raw, specifically on Netflix. So they have put him on NXT. And Vince, he showed up last night on NXT, and he said, there's no place I would rather be than right here. There's ways that Vince and the wrestling business can mess with people over the years. They did it to me many different times. That was them messing with Corey Graves. I promise you, they handed him the script and they said, you're going to say this, you're going to act the part, or you're going to be out the door. What did you make of his appearance last night?
Well, Coach, listen, I don't want to wear out mamby-pamby, but yeah, it was very, very, very mamby-pamby-ish. And hey, listen, man, I guess Graves is, trying to protect his job. I'm sure he gets paid very, very, very well. I'm sure he got slapped on the wrist for the comments he made on social media. And, I'm sure if he wanted to stay in good standards, then he had to say what was on the paper.
Somebody asked me on social media, I like to, kind of see where the temperature's at in the room. And somebody said, hey, Coach, would you ever do what Corey Graves did last night and say something that they made you say? And I thought for about 2 seconds, and I said, hell yes, I would have done that. And I did that many, many, many times. Anybody that says I'd stand my ground, I would protect my own brand, my integrity, that is BS. When you think about, let's say $400,000, he's been there over 10 years. It's not out of the realm of possibility he makes that much money, if not more. And you think about, I like that check every 2 weeks. And is there another wrestling company or any company that's going to pay me that kind of money to do this, that allow me to be myself in a, as he called it, dream adjacent job? The answer is hell no. And he's not a stupid guy. I'm quite sure that he sat down with, I don't know if they're married now, but they've been together for a minute. Can't remember her name, but she's a WWE superstar also. And they sat down and said, what do we do? And hopefully she told him, quit being a jackass. This is your dream job. If you leave and you leave this way, there is no coming back, like others have done many, many times. And thankfully, because I don't want anybody to lose their job in this business, Vince, he came to his senses one way or another, and it was the right thing to do.
Well, yeah, somebody just pointed out, thank you. I'm going to shout out Awesome Sauce. He's a longtime member. Carmela, and they are married, Coach. And Coach, listen, on top of that, they just had a kid.
They're not inexpensive, are they?
Yeah, so come on, it's, he's a regular guy. It's a job. He's getting paid very well. He's got 10 years in, newly married, new child. I get it. But yeah, I mean, Coach, it reeks of old. I mean, this reeks of Bruce Pritchard and old school. And okay, you said this, well, now you're going to do that. I mean, that's just the way it works, man.
Years ago, and I don't know if you ever heard this story, but remember after 9/11, Vince decided he wanted to do his tribute to the troops in the Middle East, actually go over there. So for several years, we did that. So we all get together in a room, and they're like, listen, we're going to go to Afghanistan or Iraq somewhere every year. This is up to you. You're not forced to go. It's your decision. You can do whatever you want to do. It was 18 talent, 12 crew members, 30 total to be specific, because this is the United States government we're talking about. This is going to an active war zone. So part of the reason they asked me to go is I could do anything. I could wrestle a match if they needed to, whatever. So I go over and I wrestled Ric Flair in Afghanistan. We had 3 groups of 6, and it was actually a lot of fun. But I'd be lying to you, Vince, if I said landing like this straight down on a base in the middle of Afghanistan was not fun. But that was what we were asked to do. So fast forward, now my wife at the time is pregnant with my daughter, Kayana, who, by the way, I was sitting in a college meeting last night talking about college tuition. Holy smokes, that was less than 24 hours ago. So my beautiful daughter Kayana's in her belly. She says, I'm having anxiety. She's like I'm nervous. I don't want you to go, which was very valid.
Right.
So I contacted the talent office, says, hey, this time I'm not going to go, respectfully. And they said, okay. And it was the assistant of somebody there. So I assumed they had passed it along, and they did. So we get to the day where we're leaving, and there was always, a talent person at the back of the gate and taking the luggage so they could then look at it, and it'd be waiting on the plane that night after all for our flight, Charleston, South Carolina. So I get up there, and the person's like, Coach, where's your luggage? And I said, well, I told you guys I wasn't going. Their exact quote was, we thought you were kidding. Why would I kid about going to Afghanistan?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So they had to scramble, and they got the masterpiece, Chris Masters, in my place that particular day. Come back the next week. I'm down there doing Raw. The show goes off the air. The Undertaker's ending the show. He does his thing. Earl Hebner, legendary referee, comes over and goes, Coach, you need to go hit the Undertaker, which would make no sense in reality of why an announcer sitting at the table would then attack the Undertaker after you go off the air.
Yeah.
And I act like I didn't hear. What? And he tells me it again. I knew exactly what was happening.
Yep.
Exactly what was happening. And in that moment, I could have said, I'm not going to do that. But what did I do? I went. I attacked the Undertaker. He turned around. He says to me, sorry about this, which clearly he was then in on it.
Yep.
And Vince was pissed off that I had said I'm not going. It threw off their plans. And I took a beat down, not only from the Undertaker, but Batista as well. I was pissed. I no-sold all of their finishes that they gave me. Again, in the moment, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
And I got up, and it was at that moment that I knew that either I stand on this or I've got to start my exit strategy.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did. I started my exit strategy, and I ended up leaving the company. And it wasn't for that reason, but I tell that story, Vince, to say sometimes you got to decide. And if I would have wanted to stay there for a long period of time, I would have eaten that beat down, and I would have kept it on going. But I was like, I can't work in this environment anymore. And that's what it was.
And Coach, it's funny that you say that, because a lot of people, Coach, we hear it all the time. Vince isn't there anymore, so it's different. No, it's the wrestling business. And they've been doing things in the wrestling business for a very, very long time. And as long as you have the old guard there, those things are going to continue to happen, Coach. Coach, I see it all the time, man. I could watch the shows and know when somebody's in the doghouse, when somebody's being ribbed, when somebody's being punched. When you've been there, like you said, in your shoes and with what you've experienced, you can see it a mile away. You could see it a mile away, man.
And it's funny because The Undertaker is now in the news because he went on his 6 Feet Under podcast, which hopefully we can get him here on the show at some point. We'll see. But he was talking about how the vibe has changed, and he put over Triple H about how everything has changed since Vince has left. And I would never call it The Undertaker. Love him, and we've had a lot of good times together. But less than a year ago, and he's on a big-time Legends deal. He's not like the guys that are getting 25, 50 grand. He's getting millions still. And he criticized how the guys were not hungry enough and there was no competition. And that's why we're not seeing these legendary storylines, because nobody's fighting for their spot. But then he came out and he said Triple H has changed everything and that there's a good vibe backstage. I think there's a happy medium where they need to get to, because right now when I watch the shows and knowing how much time we spent there, we know that a lot of times the guys and the girls are very scared to go in and say, this is what's good. This is what I should be doing. Give me this opportunity. And if they're not fighting for that, then they're going to take what they're giving. And if they're taking what they're given, then they're relying that entire writing team to write great stuff, which is impossible to do, as you know, when you're writing 6+ hours of television every single week.
Well, unfortunately, as a former writer, coach, the number one rule of thumb for me, number one, protect your talent at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if he's opening match. I don't care if he's main event. Protect your talent at all costs. That's not the mindset anymore. If I'm Rey Mysterio and you're telling me I'm going to open the show by declaring I'm going to be in the Royal Rumble, and then you're beating me on the same show an hour later, you've just buried me as a talent. If I'm Rey Mysterio, I've got to say something, because now the whole reveal and the buildup of him being in the Royal Rumble an hour later, it means nothing. He means nothing. Talent always has to make sure, coach, they are protected at any cost.
Then let's take it to the female side of that. Okay? You've got Bayley on Monday night, who came on all of a sudden. They're trying to put over this transfer. They're not calling it the portal like in college football. They're calling it the transfer window. All right? That the two general managers are actually working during the week and negotiating to allow one talent to go to Raw to go to SmackDown. And I understand what they're trying to do, but it's just silly, because we all know it's under one. Just get rid of the transfer window. But so she comes on after we had seen Nia Jax out of nowhere beating up Rhea Ripley to start the show. And Nia Jax is a SmackDown talent. And you have Bayley saying, I'm announcing right here, I'm officially now on Raw. Is it a transfer contract? What is it? If we're going to keep the storylines in reality going. And then she says, I think back-to-back sounds pretty good to me. She won the 2024 Royal Rumble match on the female side. And so then what do? They give us the match between Bayley and Nia Jax, which has in the past been a big-time pay-per-view match. PLE. And then what do? They beat her clean with the big move off the corner where Nia jumps up and then lands on her.
Yeah.
And it's 1, 2, 3. And so Bayley, who just got done saying, I'm going to win the Royal Rumble back-to-back years, and I'm going to go to WrestleMania in the main event, which she should have done last year, and they forgot about her because of The Rock and Cody Rhodes. Now you've beaten her, just like with Rey Mysterio. So now how can we believe anything she has to say moving forward after she loses clean on Raw?
Coach, two things. And I want to make sure producer man Miguel has a super sticker. I just want to make sure we get to him, producer man. Two things, Coach. Number one, Coach, do you have sources? You have sources inside like these dirt sheet writers? They got.
No, God, no, not like that. Mine are real.
Oh, okay. Well, Coach, hold on. A source. I want to. I always. Come. Don't. I got to get this confirmed. Because one of my sources came to me this week about the coach.
Oh.
A source told me that coach thought it was a good idea for Bayley to shave one side of her head. Is that true, Coach? Was that, Coach, did you give that your blessing for her to shave that one side of her head,
That is 100% untrue.
Okay. Coach, let's educate the audience, because this is what this show is all about. You just educated them about what happens when you don't go to Afghanistan. That's the reality of the business. This ain't mamby-pamby dirt sheet talk. Coach, I did hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pre-tapes, interviews with the great Bret Hart.
Love him.
When Bret was a babyface, okay, and I'm talking about house shows, pay-per-views, Raw, you name it. Bret would always find out whether he was going over or not in the match he was talking about. Because as a babyface, Coach, if Bret wasn't going over, he would never say he was going to win.
Wow.
And Bret explained to me, Vince, as a babyface, if I tell people I'm going to win and I'm going to go over and I don't, now I've lied to them. I've disappointed them. They're going to lose faith to me. A baby face never says something that he's not going to do. All these people, Bayley saying I'm going to win the Royal Rumble. You're not good. She's not winning the Royal Rumble. Sami Zayn, he doubled down. Not only is he going to win the Royal Rumble, he's going to become the WWE champ. No, you're not. No, that's not happening, Sammy. So as a baby face, Coach, why are you saying you're going to go over in a match that you know you're going to lose? You're making a promise to your fan base and then you're letting them down. Now a heel can say that because as a heel, I got a million excuses why I didn't go over. I got a million. You know, baby faces can't make excuses. So why are you saying you're going to go over when you know you're not? That's what I mean about protecting the talent. Because if I was still working with these people, I would pull them aside and say, why are you declaring you're going to win the Royal Rumble when you know you're not going to win it?
Do you think she wrote that herself, or was that handed to her from a writer?
Coach, I think we're starting to see a pattern here.
Okay.
They are losing so much in translation because it's show on top of show on top of show. Coach, they're missing everything. I'll give you a perfect case in point.
Love it. Give it to me.
We got Penta's second match.
Yep.
So he gets chicken legs. What's his name? Dunn?
Pete Dunne. Yeah.
Pete chicken legs done. He gets Pete chicken legs done in the arm gimmick, right?
Yep.
The announcers are putting break his arm. This is a devastating move. Separate the shoulder, this, that, and the other thing, right? They're putting it over to the moon. Michael Cole.
100%.
Meanwhile, Penta put the same exact move on Chad Gable the week before, and there's Gable at the beginning of a show, fresh as a daisy.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that, Vince.
No arm in a sling, nothing.
No selling?
Nothing. But here's my point.
Okay.
Because it's show on top of show on top of show, Coach, they are missing so many details. And that's what, no way in the world they're writing these promos for Bayley and for Sammy, because they don't have the time to. Coach, look at what we got this week. We've got SmackDown tomorrow night. We've got Saturday night's main event on Saturday. Correct. We're coming back with Raw. Then we got NXT. Then we got SmackDown. Then we got the Royal Rumble. Are you kidding me?
5 shows in 8 days.
Insane. That's why they're missing everything, Coach. Everything.
So let me ask you this then, because we have all these, and I remember we used to, when the only time I ever did a promo for myself that wasn't written. Now, almost 100% of the time I would change it because I was a better writer than they ever thought about being. Right. And I've never had, even when I was at Sports Center, I wrote everything myself. But they would still hand it to you. But it was only at house shows when I'm cutting a promo. And we're seeing, and this is where I think social media, they've got to be very, very careful. You mentioned the Karrion Kross interview. I mentioned the Ludwig Kaiser. I still don't know what was seen, what was not seen. But if you're allowing a talent, to when they say, oh, that's not on the show, you just write some and fill 90 seconds or fill 2 minutes. And they do that. Somebody's still seeing it.
Right.
And somebody's saying that's what Karrion Kross said, or that's what this guy said, or that girl said. And I think that's going to be another layer of this. They got to be very, very careful. Because what if a talent says something that was in a private meeting? They said, hey, here's where we're going. I just wanted to smarten you up. And then they put it into a promo.
Yeah.
Oh, my
yeah.
goodness. Oh, my goodness.
Again, Coach, it all goes back to serving way too many masses. Again, don't misunderstand us. They're making money hand over fist. We acknowledge that. What we're pointing out is the problems you're going to be running into. That's what we're talking about here, Coach.
And understand that we look at things like Michael Jordan used to look at things, because so many people, they do what you just said. They say, but you're saying they're making mistakes, but they're making billions of dollars. Well, you've got to continue for that to happen. There's a reason they do a 10-year deal, is because they know deep down, I believe, that they can't sustain. And we're already seeing that from week 1 to week 2, down 37%, because a lot of the stuff doesn't make sense. And the fan base is saying, wait. And the fan base is pretty smart when it comes to these types of things, because they live, eat, breathe, sleep these storylines. Like, this is life to them, which is banana land to me, but it's life to them. So when you point this out, they go back and go, oh, yeah. Now, I will say this, because I love your perspective, because you literally, for people who don't know that are trying this out, Vince wrote Monday Night Raw at the height of its popularity, when they were getting 5s and 6s and everything was rocking. Now, when you bring Kevin Owens out, who is a heel, and I think he's doing a really hell of a job, and then he says to Sami Zayn, I know you can do it. I know we can do this, and this. And then as a viewer, I'm like, when is he going to pull the rug out from underneath Sami Zayn? That felt really good to me, because it's a heel doing it.
Right.
And then down the road, when he turns on his longtime partner, we go, well, Sami Zayn should have seen it coming. That, to me, is good heel work. Would you agree?
I agree 100%. Yeah, because again, what is a heel? They lie, they cheat, they steal, whatever they have to do, but not you've got. Listen, man, this sounds so archaic, Coach, and here's where we're old, we're irrelevant, we're this, we're that. The baby face is always sympathetic. The baby face wants you to believe in them. And that's why when you say you're going to do something you don't do, you let people down. That has not changed, Coach.
Real quick, for people to understand what Vince is talking about, years ago when I became a heel, they had me be a ring announcer, because at house shows, understand this. How many times have you been in a house show? Think about this. The babyface almost 100% of the time wins the main event. Right. Why? You want the fans going home happy and buying stuff on the way out the door.
Yes.
So when I became a fairly big heel in the company, they said, we want you to ring announce, and then the heels can go over, and then we can beat you up after the match is over. And so that happened one time. We were supposed to have a tag team tables match, Christian and Jericho against the Dudley Boys. And we didn't have an intermission because we tried to get it done. It was a Sunday afternoon, and nobody came down and told me it wasn't a tables match. So I get in there, following tag team main event. It's a tag team tables match. Crowd goes bananas. Well, you've now promised them something, and you better deliver. And they come down. Christian looks at me. You're an idiot. Jericho, you're an idiot. Dudley Boys, you're an idiot. And I'm like, why am I an idiot? And so here comes who used to train the Divas? Oh, Fit Finlay. So Fit Finlay comes down. He was the agent that day with Arn Anderson. And he goes, Coach, what are you doing? You just announced that it's no longer a tag team tables match. And I said, it would have been nice for you to come down and tell me, as I have not been backstage since the beginning of the show.
Right.
He looks at me, he goes, and this was a quote, you're a team player. You always have been. Somebody's got to go through a table. And I knew right then it was going to have to be me.
Right.
I said, okay. And I ended up going through a table after the match was over, and the crowd went home happy. But that tells you how far we will go, or they should go, to have the crowd go home happy. They really do.
Absolutely.
You are watching the Coach and Bro Show. I know we have a super sticker over there. Vince, if you want to go ahead and read that from Miguel.
Yeah, I'm wondering, I'm sure this is true. Miguel said Carmelo has been the only black wrestler on a PLE since WrestleMania.
Which WrestleMania?
I guess the
She
last
hasn't
one.
been here. I don't think she's been back
No,
at all.
I think he's talking about Carmelo Hayes.
Oh God! Oh my God! I'm reading.
But wait a minute. I mean, but Bianca Belair, Naomi, Nia Jax.
Wow. Well, we'd have to go back and look. I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to. I'm not going to spend my time looking that up.
Yeah.
We appreciate that. Maybe you can look it up for us. But there, and just maybe a good time to say, you have a show called Black and White with Stevie Ray.
Yes.
And we're going to be adding different kinds of shows that actually talk about things that matter, like race and wrestling. And we're going to do that in the next couple of months. We've already discussed it. So that is definitely an issue when you look at the big PLEs. And you got to have
I mean, if Miguel is correct, I mean, that really that says a lot. It really does.
It really, really does. Yeah. All right, you are watching the Coach and Bro Show. We drop live episodes every single Monday and Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. He is Vince Russo from russosbrand.com. I am the Coach. You can also watch us on demand at the Behind the Turnbuckle YouTube page. Let's now go over to AEW. And we really, really try, Vince. We really try to find the good in everything. I'm always on. It's like, man, let's not be negative today. But sometimes they just do it to themselves. And when you're a company that now is fighting the ratings issue, fighting the ticket issue, you've got big shows that you've already announced, and then you change the venue because there's no tickets being sold. It's a real issue. And then two things with what I'm going to show you is what would Vince have done if this happened, and what would the company have done if you were WWE? Well, we just saw it with Corey Graves, so we know what they would have done. So the female stable at AEW, we'll call it, they're a mess. Tony Storm quits, comes back as a different character, and our favorite, the dentist, Britt Baker. And we know that for a long time she dated Adam Cole. And when you're in this battle with yourself to then make good shows, the last thing you want, Vince, is your top talent going on social media and distracting from anything but positive things you're trying to put on your main shows. So here is Britt Baker, number one, that apparently, and I didn't know this because I'm not on social media like that, I'm busy making great content with the likes of you. But apparently the fan base has now turned on her, and here is what she wrote on Twitter yesterday or the day before. Producer man, if you don't mind, here is the tweet from Britt Baker. Okay, so right now we're having a technical issue, but I will tell you this. It essentially was this, and tech stuff happens all the time. Essentially, she's been accused of cheating, which is why she broke up with Adam Cole. And she was like, I've never cheated on anybody a day in my life. Check your source. And sometimes you have to speak up, even though I don't want to. Vince, everybody in any organization will have issues like these. And the only thing you can do, as hard as it is keep your mouth shut and keep it moving. But they have recently just moved her off the show. And there's all these rumors as to why. We don't know. We're not there. But now when you put out a tweet like this, you're putting the spotlight on yourself. And then also AEW has to deal with this. What do you think WWE would do if this case was going on with Britt Baker and all the nonsense?
Coach, I got to tell you this, because there's a 5-year history with Tony Khan now, okay? Mm-hmm. And part of that history is he does not know how to deal with, I don't want to say toxic talent. He doesn't know how to deal with top talent who may have a chip on their shoulder. And let me inform Tony Khan of something. When you are a top talent, when you are a star, you usually have a chip on your shoulder because you've earned it. So yes, you are going to act like a star. You are going to expect to be treated like a star. You are going to be outspoken. And as the owner of the company, you better learn how to deal with that, or else you're going to lose a lot of top talent. Already lost CM Punk. Now it looks like he's going to lose Brett Baker. Again, coach, because we've been there and we done that. Let me give you an example that I dealt with first.
Please.
Everybody knows, coach, during the Attitude Era, Shawn Michaels was an absolute nightmare.
Everybody knows that.
Everybody knows that. Shawn has admitted that. He's not the same guy today. He had a lot of demons at that time. But Shawn Michaels would literally tell Vince to F off to his face. He was that out of control. I remember, coach, there was a time leading up to that WrestleMania with him in Austin. Bro, they were not speaking, Vince and Shawn. I was literally the go-between. I'd have to go to Vince. Vince, go tell Shawn this. Go to Shawn. Vince, tell Shawn this. And I'll never forget when Shawn told me, and I quote, if that mother effing SOB wants his title back, he can come to my effing house in San Antonio and take it off the mantle himself. That's how bad it got. But here's my point. It was just me and Vince. And I'm like, brother, just fire the guy. Why are you dealing with this? And Vince looked at me and he said, and I used to, man, when Vince would tell me these things, coach, I would never forget. This is what he would always say. Vince, my father taught me. So when he would start hitting me with Vince Sr., I was all ears, man, because Vince Sr. was like God, right? So he said, Vince, when you have a problem with talent, okay, and you want to fire them, you fire them on your time, not theirs. In other words, what Vince McMahon was saying is, as long as Shawn is making the company money, I am going to deal with it. The second he is no longer making the company money, that's when I'm going to fire his ass. And that's what Tony Khan needs to learn and understand. He is not in a position, coach, where he can lose top talent. Coach, you've been around stars your entire life. They have egos. Coach, stars have egos. You've got to stroke their egos. You got to know how to deal with them. You just can't write them off every single time.
This is the real world. I call this the big boy world.
Right.
And in the big boy world, there are big time egos. I saw it a million times during my first run was 10 years. And I always laugh and go, oh, you only lasted, really? But you see it a million times. Stone Cold Steve Austin, who the reason I still respect him, even though he walked out several times, he walked out because he took his job so seriously. And he took his character so seriously. I've told this one a million times. We were supposed to wrestle on a pay-per-view, and he told Vince, oh, that ain't happening. That's way below a star of my status to wrestle the coach. And truth be told, it probably was. But in the storyline, it made sense. But it didn't make sense to him because he was always a big-time talent. And he, to this day, has made more money than anybody for the WWE in the history of the business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things people say, well, how can you defend Vince? No, we're not defending him. I learned a lot from him. What he did in his personal life is what he did. But there's a reason he built a billion-dollar business on certain things. And what Vince just told you is one of those things. When you have a star, look at any organization, NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball. Barry Bonds was very difficult to deal with. He was on your team. What did they do? They kept giving him raise after raise after raise because what was he doing? Making boatloads of money in ticket sales for that organization.
Yep.
So you can't just throw people away. And especially, Vince, when you're a company that's less than 5 years old and you've gotten all these stars, and the only reason they got these stars is because they're writing checks. Most companies don't get started by a billionaire's son.
Right.
They don't have the bankroll that he has, and all these top talent that are now making all this money. He's just like, oh, I'll just write another check. you can't build something that way.
Yep.
It's got to be sustainable about storylines and building characters. And that's what Vince knew and understood, and he believed. It doesn't mean Vince was always right about that, but that's what he believed, and that's why you don't throw a Shawn Michaels out the door, who's arguably one of the top 5 most talented workers in the history of the business.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Now, Tony Khan has invested heavily, as we know, in Mercedes Moné. And I will put her over in this way, Vince, that I don't think I've ever seen a star, and I use that term very loosely, that has bigger blinders on when it comes to her role in a company and her role in the wrestling business than Mercedes Moné, formerly Sasha Banks of the WWE. But she has got to a point where she's carrying the 4 titles and all this stuff. It is cringe-worthy. And so now it's crickets when she's out there talking, but yet it doesn't faze her at all because she uses the company jet. She's making 7 figures. God bless you. Got a lot in the bank account. But then she does this. Vince, this is Mercedes Moné this week. I don't know if it was streaming live or just a post. I don't know, but I'll let you judge for yourself and listen to the commentary and the words very, very closely. Producer man.
We need you in the what? No. Tired of it. I feel like that company just sends all these little bots and puts in the system to write to my TikTok, to ask the same questions every time I get online. When will you? Hey, I miss. Oh my God. You guys gonna be doing this 10 years from now too? Tired. But I wanna see you,
Tired's a good word because we are all tired of this. And also, Vince, she said, will you be doing this 10 years from now? Mercedes, young lady, you won't be doing this 10 years from right now. Vince, I would love your reaction to that.
Coach, listen, man. I'm not going to let you soil the good name of Rebecca De Mornay, whatever she's calling herself. I'm not going to let, because I know what it's about, Coach.
What's it about?
You're bitter. And can I show you why you're bitter? I got proof.
Please tell me why I'm bitter. Oh my gosh. What is he doing? What is he grabbing? Oh.
Coach.
Okay. What is that?
Get my headsets on.
Okay.
Coach is bitter because she could not invite everybody to her birthday bash. You see the selected few at her party. Coach was not invited, not on the list, and has held a grudge against the beautiful, vivacious, brilliant Rebecca De Mornay. Coach, you got to let it go. Coach, as your tag team partner, I'm here to tell you, let it go. Coach, she'll have other birthdays. Maybe you'll be invited. Maybe you won't, Coach. You got to let it go, Coach.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, and front and center was Tony Khan at that birthday party. Oh, my God. A, that's hilarious.
So
B,
wait, Coach, what was she cutting a promo on fans that were asking her questions on TikTok? I was a little confused.
No, so I think she was on Instagram Live or TikTok Live, one of those, and she's just reading questions as they kind of come up. And she said that company, I don't think she's meaning the WWE. I think she means one of the dirt sheet companies sends bots to ask me those questions, because that is where some of these dirt sheets get their quotes, is when a talent goes on social media. What I thought was, how different does The Rock use social media to his advantage?
Yeah.
And that's that's your biggest female star that Tony Khan has. And she's putting up a video behind the scenes of her putting her makeup on and addressing the fan base that, to me, she should never address. When you're a big-time star, is Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, is Halle Berry going on Instagram Live to address the fan base?
Coach,
No.
let me be devil's advocate. Let me ask you a question.
Please.
because
Okay.
I know what her answer to that would be.
Okay.
I'm a heel. I'm a heel, and I'm being a heel on Instagram.
But as a heel who thinks she's a big star, and that's who that's not even her character. That's who she truly is. She truly believes the hype. So if you're that, why would you even care about the fan base on Instagram Live or TikTok Live?
Yeah.
Why would you spend one single solitary second? I recently went through a situation where I was asked to be in a Instagram Live or whatever, and I said, "How many people are there?" And I said, I don't have time for this. We're running brands.
Yeah, mamby-pamby stuff. Yeah.
Mamby-pamby stuff.
Yeah.
And
Coach, you know what, though? Listen, who's put that in her head?
Tony Khan.
Exactly. This is you think Vince McMahon for a second would have ever fed talent how valuable they were to him and how valuable you think he would have ever. Why would Vince have not done that? Because that would have put them in the driver's seat. Now they know what they're worth to Vince. Now they know what they can ask for. These are the things Tony Khan does not understand. He made it clear to her. He said it on day one. You're a huge star. You're a huge draw. God knows what he paid her. So the fact that she is now convinced of that, well, who do you think convinced her of that?
Here's what I would do, because I the one thing that I pride myself on, and which is why I love doing these shows with you, is educating the fans on what being a star is truly all about. When The Rock and Stone Cold and all these guys are becoming big, and we'll use females too, so we're not being sexist, God forbid. Trish Stratus, Lita, all at the same time. The company used to start booking them on autograph sessions that they would make $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 per for showing up. Social media didn't exist back then. It does now. So if you're going to have your top star, heel or not, because a lot of fans love to root for heels. And if you do it the right way, you can be a really cool heel. You don't always have to come at people. What I would do is be, hey, listen, special opportunity for you this week. And you could, even if you want to make money at it, you can say, hey, listen, we're going to go be on Twitch or whatever. It's going to cost you $4.99, but you can have a conversation and ask Mercedes Moné a question about what it's like to be the company's biggest star. You advertise it.
Right.
You plan on it. But I would never have my biggest star putting on makeup on Instagram Live and taking me behind the scenes that way. That's not what stars do.
Yeah, well, and which again leads to the problem. We've let them in. We've let them in. We've made these people with no credentials. We've made them a part of the business. And again, I'm going to ask the question. And whose fault is that, Coach?
Mm-hmm.
Who made that happen?
Mm-hmm. I will say this: when I look at if you want to insult WWE and their social medias, you're acting a fool. One of my best friends helped build what they have over there at the digital. They have over 100 million subscribers on YouTube for a reason. YouTube for them is a gigantic revenue maker. If you notice, a lot of the stuff that they put out, they would never allow a star to put out on their own social media, because at WWE, and I've learned this from you, when you're doing this for a living like what we are, everything has to be about revenue. We're doing a show, just like Raw or SmackDown or anybody else does a show. You think Travis Kelce and his brother are doing their show for free? No, they're making $33 million. So everything, the business has changed. Everybody's doing show, and if you're lucky enough to do it like we are, fantastic. But you got to do it in a certain way. And you look how WWE, Triple H, and I guarantee you, Vince, Triple H has a guy that's posting for him, because he has strategic posts behind the scenes, all that kind of stuff. But what do they always do? They always drive it somewhere that has to do with revenue.
Coach, here's what I tell people all the time, and I'm really sticking to it this year. It gets difficult, like Britt Baker, man. If people are accusing you of cheating on your better half, and you never have, That's going to get under your skin. She's a human being. She's not a robot. She's a human being. So it's very difficult, Coach, because on social media, people are constantly getting under your skin, my skin. But here's what I try to tell people. If you want to be successful on social media, you need to use social media. You cannot allow social media to use you.
That's brilliant.
That's the big difference. And Coach, I got to tell you, I have to work at that.
Yeah.
I have to work
at that.
It's not easy. Because you got people coming at you from all directions. And like I said, at the end of the day, you're human. You're going to have a breaking point. So I guarantee you with her, it wasn't just one or two people. It was probably a beret till she said enough. But it's more than just tough skin. It's like, bro, you got to put on a suit of armor.
And if there's any public figures that are watching us right now, here's another thing I started to do, Vince, because not only do we have this brand, we have The Last Word. We have our big announcement tomorrow. I have a new big role within the PFL, a big fighter league as well. I'm a play-by-play guy in the PGA Tour. My point is I'm busy. And what I used to do is probably what a lot of people do, and that is put something out. What are people thinking about? Let me go read my Twitter or my Instagram. How I rate my success, and it's a very small percentage of my success, is how are we doing when it comes to growing the brands? Right. We just put out our fluffy video at BTT. In 24 hours, it became the highest viewed anything we put out at BTT. We've also gained well over 1,000 subs on this YouTube page in less than 24 hours. That tells me people like it. That tells me people are interested, not only in that, but what we do, because we're all on the same channel. And the one thing I've stopped doing is I don't go to my Twitter and read any reactions anymore. And do you know how freeing that is when you're like, you can say whatever you want to say? Because most of the time people think, they've got, the other day I had 2 insults, and I just happened to go in and look because I want to make a point to my team, which you're a part of. And they're always like, man, I got to respond to everybody. These 2 insults combined, the follower count was 13. Which means 13 people saw it, and maybe not even 13. And so that's how I do it now, and that's how we're going to do it here. And I think it's a great way to go about it because we're just out here to run a brand, run a business, and put out content. I'm not here to respond to somebody on Twitter who doesn't like or maybe having a bad day.
And it is a double-edged sword, Coach, because with what you're trying to do, I'm trying to do, we're trying to do, you need social media.
100%.
There's no question about it. You need to be on social media almost hourly. No question, no doubt about it. But like Coach said, you've got to train yourself. You're there to promote. I'm there to do a job. I'm there to get something over. And you got to stay away from all that negative crap.
Speaking of promoting, that's a great way to end right there. Tell the good people where they can see all your stuff, Vince.
Yeah, guys, right now, if you've never been a Patreon member, you can get a free week of the brand, man. You can listen to all our shows for a free week. Just go to patreon.com/Russo TWC.
Boom and boom. Also, coming up in the next couple of weeks, I'm telling you this right now, we've got a brand new platform that we're going to be on because all of you want to be a part of every show. I cannot even imagine bringing fans onto a show on video, Vince. I mean, who would do that? But we're going to make that possible. There's a brand new platform that we're going to be on. It's a free platform to get on, but if you want to be on the show, then that's going to cost you. But wrestling fans want to be a part of the discussion. So we're going to launch that in the next couple of weeks, and that will be a standalone thing that has nothing to do with here. And the last thing that we're going to say, Vince, is coming up tomorrow, Friday, January 24th. We have a gigantic announcement about another thing happening here at the BTT brand. Vince, you're going to be a part of it, but there's a big part of the fan base out there that is missing something. And we're going to fill it on big-time platforms, and we're going to announce that tomorrow. I could not be more excited. I want to thank you for not only this, but being a part of what we were doing before, and we're going to make things even bigger now.
Yeah, no, Coach. Listen, you've opened the door. I love working with you, producer man. I love being part of the family. I'm looking forward to the announcement tomorrow.
All right, check it out. It's going to be at all of our social media pages. We'll drop the video tomorrow. I think a lot of you are going to be very, very happy about it. In the meantime, that's going to do it for us today. Do not forget, we are here every single Monday and Thursday live at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also catch us on demand if you miss any of the show here at our Behind the Turnbuckle YouTube page. If you want to listen to the audio and you're just driving around, we do have a podcast version courtesy of Believe Network, and we can't thank them enough as we're just getting that relationship started. For Vince Russo, for Producer Man, I am the coach. We'll see you on Monday for the next episode. There's only one Coach and Bro Show. Take care.